Hello everyone, this is Orlando from A Collector's Dream. And today I want to show some cards from the 1962 Topps set. 62 Topps is a set that either, some people love it, some people hate it, because of the wood borders around it. And it's a tough set to get in good condition. But if you find the cards in nice condition, they're just beautiful. And it's a beautiful set. And some people say that there are technically no hits in these sets, in these old vintage sets. But when I collected these sets, I built sets. I was a set builder. And it was just a fun time because we were truly collecting. We weren't just looking for the hits and getting rid of some of the cards that we didn't like. We enjoyed every card that we got. We read the backs, we looked at them, we enjoyed them. We got to know each of the players. So without all that talk, I'm just going to go ahead and begin showing some cards. And also remember that they did do the Topps Venezuelan cards too. And this is a sample of the Topps Venezuelan. And this is a sample of the regular Topps. And the difference between them, of course, was the Venezuelans are in Spanish, where the regular Topps were not. And it's a little bit different with the colors, but basically the look of the cards, the design of the cards were all pretty much the same, other than the language on the back of these cards. So let's just go ahead and I'm going to just show you some of the cards that I have in the set that I have not graded, and I probably will never grade, because first I do like the raw cards, and the majority of my cards are raw. And it's just a lot of these cards, you can get them graded, but unless they grade at a pretty high grade, for the most part, they're not going to be worth that much. But there's some great players in this set. And I'm going to share some of the guys that are in this set and give you a good look at some of the players. And I have them all in order, pretty much in order here. So this is number 14. And I pulled out some of what I consider the minor stars, but really in their days, all these guys were good players, great players. There's Bill White. There's Rocky Calavita. And a lot of these guys, some of the guys I'm going to show you are Hall of Famers, or will be Hall of Famers, like Bill White, I think, in the future. But they're just beautiful cards, beautiful design. I love the little poster style there with the wood grain background. And when I collected cards, I wanted every card, no matter who it was. Here's the Casey Stengel. Here's the Eddie Matthews. And again, these are really, really nice. The 62s, like I said, they're love or hate for some people. But for me, I love this set. And these were all good players back in those days. There's John Roseborough. There are some that are variations, and some of them are what they're called the green tint. And, when you build sets, some people did like to get the green tint also. There's Orlando Cepeda. And here's some of the leader cards. And the leader cards, they did have the floating heads. Some people hate the floating heads, but I don't know. I think they're kind of cool. And the American League were red background. You see Elston Howard. You got Al Kaline, Norm Cash was a leader there. And the National League were yellow background. And there's Clemente, Veda Pinson, Ken Boyer. Again, all of these were the top players in the day. Some people forget about Veda Pinson or Ken Boyer, but they were great players. And there's the Warren Spahn as the ERA leaders. And again, the American League were red background. There's the Whitey Ford. As you can see, mines are in really, really good condition. Again, they probably can be graded, but they're really not worth much if you grade them, which is kind of unfortunate, unless they grade high, like 7s or 8s. These cards are really, really inexpensive. There's the Worn Spawn. Not like today's cards that, you can grade a common rookie star, grades up 10, and it's worth a ton of money. Then you have a great card like this with the strikeout leaders, Camilo Pascual and Whitey Ford. It'll grade a high grade, and for 62s, a 7 or an 8. You can get it for 30, 40 bucks, even less in some cases. A beautiful card here of Sandy Koufax with Don Drysdale. Two of the greatest pitchers for the Dodgers ever, and very inexpensive. So for that reason, I just feel that many of these vintage cards, like this Bobby Richardson, are just, my opinion, are undervalued. I know the demand may not be there for these guys, but they were great players in their days, and they were much better than many of the players that are considered future stars nowadays. Harmon Killebrew, big-time Hall of Famer. Just a great picture of a young killer. And there's Nellie Fox with a nice, just the background of these, the stadium background. I'm sure my friend Hugo could tell you exactly where that was. That picture was taken. I think one of the undervalued players and underrated players is Veda Pinson. Again, another guy that not a big star, not a high demand guy, but an incredible player that is really remembered and valued for the vintage guys. Versus many of the new up-and-comers now with the modern cards that probably in the future won't have any value. But again, in PSA 10s, they're a hit. It's a big hit that you get from the packs. And there's Gil Hodges. Here's a beautiful, great, one of my favorite players from the Orioles, Boog Powell, 62 rookie card. So undervalued, and pick these up raw for $5, $10, which is kind of a shame, but it's great, for anybody that's collecting, and of course Worn Spawn. I love these cards. The old Milwaukee Braves, the logo, got a pretty big glove there for Worn Spawn. Another player that big Latin player, Felipe Alou, played with his brothers, Jesus and Matty, also played at the same time. Again, to me, these are great cards. Whether they're, doesn't have a lot of value or anything like that, but they bring back a lot of memories. This set has a great subset of Babe Ruth. And, what I'm showing you now is not the big stars. I guess the big stars are the hits of the day, but, they really weren't hits. We wanted to build a set. So if we had doubles, we would trade them. And what we wanted is just to have the card, have all the cards in the set. So we could look at them, we could read the backs of them, and we learned so much, at least I did, from reading the back of these cards and learning the history of baseball. Like Babe and Miller Huggins. And this 62 set has this beautiful subset of Babe Ruth. And here's one of my favorites from the set here, and that's the Ruth and the Garrett card. And again, this was when Garrett did his speech, and the backs tell you the story. And we used to always read the back of the cards, and that's how we learned. There was no internet back in the day, but it was just the fun times of collecting cards, trying to complete the set, trading with your friends, really, in my opinion, enjoying the hobby. And these were pretty much the best times for collecting. even though I guess now is the best time for collecting because, you know, it's just a lot of money and a lot of variety. You know, you can get patch cards, you can get autograph cards, you can get, you know, just a bunch of different, you know, colors and things like that. But this was, again, it was a simpler time, but it was, I think, a more fun time. And this was a time that really people never thought about selling your cards. You never thought about that. You only thought about collecting, trying to pick up some of the cards that you want, some of the players, and in many cases, the teams. Here's a beautiful Al Kaline. And many times we just, there were kids that tried to get all the players from their favorite team, no matter who it was, you know, and we would trade stars just to pick up certain cards, you know, like Tim McCarver and others that were not huge stars, but, you know, we saw them play, we enjoyed them. And in our minds, you know, these were people that we all idolized back in the days, you know, like Ron Santo, you know, another great player, undervalued, you know, and I don't know, you know, I just feel that this was a great time to collect. Jim Fregosi. There's the Richie Ashburn. Again, not valuable cards, super inexpensive. You can get these for a couple bucks. Here's the Joe Torre. Another beautiful card of Joe Torre, you know, with the All-Star rookie. And, you know, we really didn't go after, you know, these were not like, oh, it's a rookie. It's got to be, you know, a big star, you know. We just wanted to see the new players that we didn't have in the previous year, you know, and they would come out with that little trophy. And that was just a fun thing to see back then and say, hey, look, here's another guy, a new rookie. But, you know, rookies really weren't what we went after. There's Robin Roberts. I really enjoyed the team cards. I thought that they were great. You know, unfortunately, you don't see team cards anymore. And I wish that Topps would bring some of those team cards back. Here's a great card of someone that I met when I was in Tampa, and really one of the most famous guys in the history of Tampa. I lived there for a long time. And I want to give a shout out to Hugo, who did a great video. His first video was on Al Lopez. And he just dropped a video yesterday about Tampa and Al Lopez, and gave me a beautiful tribute. So thank you so much, Hugo, for doing that. You always lift my spirits when I see things like that. But Al Lopez, not only was he a good player, but he was a great manager on top of that. Here's another one of the cards that, you know, you would say, hey, look, this is a new guy, Billy Williams. And, you know, the All-Star Rookie Cup was just a nice little addition that Topps did. You know, this is all before the rated rookie and all that stuff, you know, came out. Another big name, Whitey Ford, you know, and, you know, it's funny because, again, you know, these are cards that you can pick up for $5-10, you know, and it's Whitey Ford, you know, versus picking up one of these young pitchers who may look like a star, but eventually they just do not pan out. So that's one of the reasons I feel that vintage is there's still a good buy. And one of the nice things of this 62 set was when they had these kind of, I don't know what you'd call them, in-action type cards. And this is a beautiful one that shows Maris hitting his 61st home run. Again, a card that probably should be valued more because this card is history, you know, and it talks about it here. It talks about all of his stats and stuff and his World Series and what he did. And the number one card in this set is the Roger Maris card. But I'm not showing you my graded cards. You know, I did get most of the big name ones that are valuable. I did get them graded. you know, for future, in case they need to be sold in the future. But, you know, Warren Spahn pitching a no-hitter. You know, here's Whitey Ford showing how he throws that famous curveball that he had. And just an incredible pitcher and just so undervalued, you know, compared to some of the modern stuff that's out there, you know. I think nowadays people look more at the grade. If it's a PSA 10, even though it's not one of the top rookies, it's still going to be worth a lot more than this Killebrew, who's a Hall of Famer, and it shows him with his incredible power and swing that he had, and he sends one into orbit. And people like this guy, Stan Musial, you know, who played, you know, here he is playing his 21st season. Such an undervalued player, and someone that is, you know, again, just not worth a lot of money in one of these years, even though he was one of the best players in the history of baseball. Here's one of my favorites, Lua Parisio, one of the best Venezuelan players in the history of baseball. And I just enjoy looking at these cards, even though they're not worth a lot of money. And I do enjoy them raw. Most of my collection, before I started YouTube, I would say, you know, 99% of my collection was raw. And I graded a bunch of the big name stars. But I'm still not going to grade these because even though a card like this one here with Roger Maris and Orlando Cepeda, it's a nice looking card with pretty nice borders and stuff for 62. It's not going to be worth much. You could probably pick up a graded card of this and a nice grade for $30 or $20, which is, again, kind of a shame, but it's undervalued. Another Hall of Famer, Hoyt Wilhelm, Roy Face, another great player during his days. Here's a great card of Tony Kubek. Not only was he a good player, he was also a good announcer, and just, like I said, just great cards, fun cards, 62 sets, a beautiful set. To me, it's one of my favorites. And it has also the Sporting News guys that look like this. I've got many of mine graded already because of just them being big names, the Hank Aaron, the Mickey Mantles and stuff. But, you know, they're just a great series of cards and something that I enjoy looking at, even though, you know, they're not the big so-called hits. Juan Marichal, what could you say about Juan Marichal? You know, this is one of the greatest pitchers for the Giants, and that's his second-year card. And not only a second-year card, it's a high number card. And it's very inexpensive. So you can pick these up pretty cheaply. There's a Dick McAuliffe. Not a big name, but if you're a Tigers fan, he was a big name. And again, some of the team cards, I really enjoy looking at the team cards. And you know, on the back of the team cards, it will give you all of the information on the team, some of their top players, like the 62 batting leaders, you know, Jimmy Pearsall, things like that. So, you know, good stuff for that Indians team card. And another Hall of Famer, Hoyt Wilhelm, pitched so many years, does so many good stats, but he's virtually not even collected much nowadays. I love this card of the Cubs with that red background that just pops, you know. And it's got, again, you know, all the big names are in there. Ernie Banks and all that are in this card. And you know, even though these are high number cards and tough to come by, especially in nice condition like these, they're just not valuable. So there's really no reason to get these cards graded nowadays. Here's Red Shandies. I just love the backgrounds of some of these cards with the old-time logo and caps. You know, it's Like I said, it was a different time back then. But it's always good to go back and reminisce and look at some of these guys. The Twins, you know, you got the old Twins shirts there. Get a good look at those. Again, you got Harmon Killebrew and a lot of the big name stars. And at the end of the 62 set is where you have the rookies. And the rookies, you know, there's not too many big names in this rookie class. But, you know, you got players that really made a big difference, like Sam McDowell, Sutton Sam McDowell, great player. You do have the Bob Uecker card, which I did get graded, and a few others that I did get graded. But it's still some great players. You know, you got Jim Bouton, Bo Belinsky. You know, he wrote a wonderful book, which people kind of have forgotten. You know. Sorry about the phone there ringing, but and again, so you know, at the end here, again, you've got some not big name cards, but some really tough cards to come by. If you're looking to build this set, some of these rookie guys, these rookie parade cards, are real difficult to find because they are the high series, and you know these cards chip really easily. You got Jim Hickman over there, and I guess the last card I'll show here is the Curt Flood, another one of the high number cards, and really one of the most important people in the history of baseball. He's the one that, you know, fought to get the free agency and allowing the players of today to make the money that they're making. And again, a player that is extremely undervalued and very, 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 you know, ignored, especially by some of the modern guys who really have forgotten that they owe much of their career, much of their money that they're making to Curt Flood. So that kind of gives you a good look at some of the 62 cards from one of the nicest sets in the 60s. So I wanted to share some of those with you, just kind of talk a little bit, and thank everybody for watching my channel and liking and subscribing. I truly, truly appreciate that. And, you know, keep collecting, guys. It's fun. You don't have to just look for the hits. You can look to build some sets. And you never really know who's going to be a future star. You know, some of the guys that we thought were future stars, like a Todd Van Poppel and some of those guys like that, a Mark Fidrich, you know, never really became big. And over the years, people realized that some of these guys that maybe weren't some of the huge name stars, like the Bill Whites and Rocky Calavitos and things like that, were really incredible guys, incredible players. So thanks for watching, guys. Have an awesome, awesome day. It's Orlando from A Collector's Dream, and I'll catch you on the next one.